So the real point here was that there are fruits. Some people say, well, they're fruits, why can't we eat them? Some fruits are toxic. Fruit means fleshy covering of seed, right? So a lot of things we think of as vegetables are actually fruits. And remember that what distinguishes fruits from other plant parts is that the plant makes them with a specific intention of having them eaten. It wants someone to eat the fruit, right? No other plant wants any part of itself to be eaten, but fruit, yes. So while most plants and most plant parts are toxic, most fruits are not. There are exceptions. The fact that we're frugivores doesn't necessarily mean we eat everything, in the same way that a carnivore doesn't necessarily eat any animal. There may be specific animals that they eat, and there may be others they avoid. Some animals are toxic to eat, right? Some carnivores probably don't eat poison frogs that we have here in Costa Rica. And there's others. There's other species that actually have some toxin in the body or on their skin that protects them. So the fact that something's a carnivore doesn't mean it eats any animal, any meat. The fact that we're a frugivore doesn't necessarily mean that we should eat any fruit. Okay? We can eat most fruits, but not necessarily all fruits. Some examples of fruits that you may not want to eat, or probably are not optimal for us. Has anyone ever, excuse me, anyone ever tried eating raw eggplant? Anyone tried that? How does it taste?
Gross.
It's disgusting. Yeah. It's very, very bitter. Years ago, I taught a series of raw food prep classes, and every week was a different cuisine. And one week, I did a Middle Eastern night, where I made a raw tahini and a bunch of other things, including a raw baba ganoush. Baba ganoush is an eggplant dish, right? So I sliced the eggplant in the morning. I soaked it in fresh homemade apple juice that I pressed myself from apples all day long to try to make it palatable. And it was still disgusting. Okay? When you cook eggplant, you break down the toxins. So it's much tastier. Now, why would a plant make something toxic? There's other examples. Anyone ever eaten, you've probably eaten, perhaps, an olive right off of the tree? Ever try that? Have you tried it? How'd that taste? Not so good. Anyone else ever try this? Raise your hand if you've tried this. What'd you think, Loren?
There's a lot of oil.
A lot of oil?
It's disgusting.
It's disgusting, right? They're very, very bitter. Okay, years ago I was speaking in Santa Barbara, California. I did a full-day seminar, and a man approached me at the end and said, I'm the ranch manager, farm manager of an avocado, organic avocado and olive farm on the other side of the mountain range. I can't remember the name of that town. Famous place, you probably know, California. But anyway, he said, come visit. And so the woman who'd organized my events there, I was staying with her, she had a car. A couple days later, we organized to go over and visit. And he said, try an olive, right? Pick a ripe olive. I picked one, it was disgusting. He said, let me pick one for you. It was also disgusting. And he said, olives are treated, they call it curing, right? Olives are cured with salt, oil, or vinegar to eliminate toxicity. They're toxic. That's why they taste the way they taste. They taste nasty to us. Now, theoretically, supposedly, there are ways to cure olives without using salt, oil, or vinegar, all of which are things we shouldn't be consuming. So apparently there are ways to do it, but I don't know anyone who's ever actually done that. You can try, but so olives, another fruit, right? There's a seed inside, it's a fruit. Another fruit that we're probably better off not eating, okay, at least most of the time. So briefly, first of all, why would a plant that wants the fruit to be eaten make a fruit that's toxic? What purpose would that serve? But it does.
Eggplant.
The olive and the eggplant are both toxic. Why would the plant make them?
Eggplant is a fruit.
It's a fruit, yeah. Eggplants have seeds in them. Yep.
For other animals?
But, so, for other animals was the question, and it's a good answer. Now, something I didn't share with you, which I usually say before I ask that question, there approximately, it's estimated, 25 million animal species on the planet. Anybody want to guess how many different central nervous system designs have been found so far? One. Every species shares the same central nervous system design. And what that means is that if something is toxic to one species, it's toxic to every species. With the exception of a species which has, for whatever reason, evolved to be able to metabolize that poison. And that happens sometimes. So for instance, tobacco isn't just toxic to smoke. Tobacco leaves are highly poisonous. Okay? Eat a tobacco leaf and it would probably kill you. Tobacco farmers, anyone here from North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia? We have some Georgian people here. Paul, you know anything about growing tobacco?
No, don't even know anything about smoking it.
Okay? So tobacco farmers put up fences to keep out one particular species. Anyone know what they are?
Rabbits.
Rabbits. Because rabbits evolved to be able to metabolize the poison in tobacco leaves. No other species that I know of can do that. Why would the rabbit's body, why would the species bother to do that? Understand that nothing happens for no reason. There's a reason.
So they will have less competition under certain time.
Less competition? No competition. They have a food source where there's no competition. Nobody else is eating it. So every year, whenever the right time is for those leaves to be the most succulent, the rabbits know they can go find tobacco and there's nobody else trying to eat that. Okay? Now think about that with regard to the fruit. Why would fruiting trees, it's a little bit different, but why would fruiting plants make a fruit that would be toxic? Fruiting
Right.
plants put a lot of energy into making fruit. Right? The mango tree makes something that's very sweet. Okay, creating sugar is biologically expensive to the tree. Creating all that fat is biologically expensive to the olive tree. So it's doing it in order to reward an animal for moving the seeds. That's why all fruiting trees make fruit. There's no exceptions to that. Okay, I'll give you that as a rule. So why would they be toxic? Okay? The answer is this. There are species that co-evolve. It's called symbiosis. Okay, symbiosis means that two different organisms help each other in different ways. So it can't be, I'll rub your back and you rub mine. That's not symbiosis. A, we're not two different species, maybe, but, and B, we're doing the same thing for each other, okay? Symbiotic relationships are something different, and I'll give you a fascinating example of this. Anyone know much about flowers? Anyone? Any flower experts here? Okay, good, then I don't have to be corrected, because I'm probably wrong what I'm going to tell you. But you have a flower. The flower has pollen. Now, what's the pollen for?
The bees.
Is it for the bees?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
No, it's fertilization.
Yeah, the pollen is actually part of the reproductive system of the plant, right? So what bees and wasps and butterflies and moths and some birds and some bats and perhaps some other things do is they go from flower to flower and they move pollen accidentally. They're not interested in the pollen, but they're moving pollen accidentally. What happens is, for instance, at the end of the pool, there's a plant, I'm not sure if it's flowering right now, I can't see any flowers, but it's got these big, long, trumpet-shaped flowers. And down inside, coming out from the bottom of the flower, from the center, something called, I believe it's called a pistil, which holds the pollen, okay? Down below that, there's a nectary. The flower makes nectar. Okay, the plant, again, it's making, through photosynthesis, it's creating sugar. That takes a lot of energy, but it's making sugar. Why? The sugar is what the bees are after, okay? Bees consume the sugar, regurgitate, make honey, which they store for times when there's no food. They're eating the sugar, but they're also using some of it to make honey for later on when there's no food. That's what honey is for. If you think you're eating honey is okay, that's the bee's food. You're taking away from them. Now they have to go make more. Okay? But think about this. So the plant makes nectar in order to attract a pollinator, and because the nectar's down here and the pollen's up here, in order to get to the nectar, their face, their abdomen, their feet, something winds up brushing against the pollen, which sticks to them. It's sticky. And then when they go to the next flower, they leave the pollen from the first one and pick up pollen from the second one. So they're accidentally transferring pollen from one to the next. Okay? This is the way it works. Here's a symbiotic relationship. Okay? The plant is getting its flowers pollinated so it can reproduce, and the pollinator is getting fed. It's not, the bees aren't going, man, you know what? If someone doesn't pollinate those flowers, there's not going to be any mangoes for people, right? It doesn't care about that. It's just trying to take care of its own needs, all right? So what happens is there are fruiting plants like the tobacco plant is not intending to provide food for the rabbits. That's different. That's not symbiosis, okay? The tobacco plant does not want to get eaten, but the rabbits evolved to eat it anyway, okay? But here, the fruiting plant makes a fruit which attracts a particular consumer. Now, which has evolved to be able to metabolize the toxins in that particular fruit. Why would the consumer's body do that? What would be the benefit of that to the consumer, to the consuming animal? Well, it's the same as the rabbit. If it's the only species that can metabolize that poison, it's got no competition for that fruit when it's fruiting season. And that benefits the tree, the olive tree in this case, because it knows that species, they're definitely showing up every year when it's the season. Why wouldn't they? Anywhere else, they've got to compete with other species for food. Here, they don't have to compete.
So which animal eats the olives?
I don't know.
And the eggplant.
I don't know. I don't care. Not me.
No, interesting.
Okay. I don't know what it is. My guess is the olives are probably birds. Eggplants, I don't know. Okay, but this is why this happens. The real point here was that there are fruits. Some people say, well, they're fruits, why can't we eat them? Some fruits are toxic. Okay? We shouldn't eat all fruits just because they're fruits. How many of you are familiar with noni fruit? You like it? I personally don't know if I like it because I have a strict rule. I don't eat things that smell like vomit. Okay? And noni smells like vomit. Sorry? Yeah, it smells disgusting. I'm not going to eat that. Okay? My guess is there's some animal out there that doesn't smell very well, or that has different scents. To them, maybe it smells fine. Okay? Peppers, hot peppers. How many of you have noticed if you walk around, we've got hot pepper plants in the garden? Quite a few of them. Okay? People ask me, do you recommend eating hot peppers? No, I don't. Why do you grow them? We don't grow them. We don't grow them. The birds plant them. Okay? The birds eat the peppers, which have dozens of tiny seeds in them. They poop, and the seeds wind up on the ground in perfect fertilizer. And they sprout up. And we don't pull them out because they're beautiful plants. They're beautiful.
What about berries?
Red, yellow, orange fruits, they're beautiful. Now, why do I not recommend eating peppers, hot peppers?
Because they're hot.
Capsaicin, the molecule that makes them hot, burns our tissue. It actually burns you. Okay? So eating something that burns you is not really a good idea. Well, then why do the birds eat them? Doesn't burn them. Here's another example. Maybe the strategy of this particular plant was, let's make something that appeals to this particular type of species, so they'll be sure, no competition. They'll figure out where we are. They'll make sure we get eaten and distributed, and it seems to work pretty well because we've got pepper plants sprouting up everywhere. Okay? We've never planted a single one, not of the hot peppers. Okay, we don't plant them. They just spring up everywhere. That's why. This is what happens in nature. It's amazing, isn't it? Incredible. So non-sweet fruits are fruits, and because they're fruits, this is how I started out, they were intended to be eaten, which means in most cases they're not toxic to us, They're perfectly harmless. You can eat them. Okay? Now, you asked about a few specific things. You said green peppers. Let me ask you a question. Do you eat green bananas? How about green strawberries? Green peaches?
How about orange or red peppers?
Okay, orange and red peppers are perfectly fine. Green peppers are unripe peppers. Now, no, have you thought about this? Look, which is sweeter, the red pepper or the green pepper?
Right.
Red pepper is a lot sweeter. As fruit ripens, starch, which we have a hard time digesting, is broken down by the enzymes in the fruit to sugar. So green peppers have no sugar. Red peppers have some sugar in them, okay, because they're ripe. The plant, which is more expensive, red peppers or green peppers? Red peppers are way more expensive. You know why? It's a lot easier to harvest green peppers. People think that humans are the smartest species. Most insects are too smart to eat green peppers because they're unripe. They're hard to digest, okay? So insects will leave them alone most of the time, which means it's much easier for the farmer to harvest the green peppers. And the plant, the whole purpose of the fruit is what?
To protect itself.
To eat it.
What's the, it's not,
Distribute
to distribute the seeds. The purpose of the fruit is to distribute the seeds. The seeds are viable when the fruit is ripe. If you pick the peppers green, the plant thinks, I failed. So what do you think it does? Makes another pepper. Okay? This is it's much easier. It's cheaper for the farmer to grow the green peppers because the plant's going to keep producing peppers. The red pepper, the plant's going to make a certain number. It's not going to make any more. Okay? The peppers were ripe. It did its job. But you have to compete with the insects because they're going to start eating them as they start ripening them. Right? How many, by the way, have noticed? A lot of people have trouble digesting green peppers. Right? People tend to burp, etc. They're very hard for us to digest because they're not ripe. So eat them red or yellow or orange or purple. Okay? But not green.